was there. And the kind of uproar that it created, very thought of regulating the stock market, is something which is impossible to think of. And now it is virtually unthinkable. Institutions have collapsed in this country. In fact, I witnessed a vacation as Chancellor of the National Law School. We conferred a doctorate on the Lord Chancellor, Lord Mackay. On that occasion, Michael Kirby was the judge of the Australian court. The Lord Chancellor asked Lord Mackay what he thought was the future of the courts. Michael Kirby was the Australian judge. Michael Kirby said, "I am so happy to know that the Lord Chancellor thinks they have a future at all." This was the kind of a certificate the Lord Chancellor gave to the judicial system. We have a moribund system of administration of justice. We have financial markets are very sticky and suspicious. And the company law administrators, particularly the linchpin of the present day thing is the auditor and the company secretary. I do hope that they grow up in a hurry and understand the implications of what we are going to do. Countries' scientific achievements are dismal. Unless you spend, as Jeffrey Sachs wrote in his beautiful book, Commonwealth, he said, if you don't spend 2% of the GDP on promotion of science, it is not on education. Education is a bigger budget. That's a bigger ticket proposition. If you don't spend 2% of our GDP, equivalent to almost 250,000 crores today, on promotion of science and fostering scientific temper in the people and students, you will not make any kind of achievement at all in science. You have to have at least 20% of the university age population in the universities. Age group of 18 to 24, out of them 20% must at least be in the universities. And you know what universities are. They are cesspools of politics today. And I'm sorry to say this at the age of 85, if somebody must have the courage to say that, people will be afraid of saying it, particularly in the presence of ministers. And I might tell you, unless you revamp the whole system of higher education, just think Australia having 168 fellows at the Royal Society, and we with almost 300 times its population having just 10 of them. I don't say that's the ultimate benchmark of scientific excellence, but it is some indicator, a sure indicator of what the things are likely to be. And medical science, in fact I had a team thinking of some kind of insurance for metabolic diseases. One of the doctors in the team says by 2020, in another 6 years' time, we may need in one area of healthcare, in diabetes, 300 million dialysis per year. We have a capacity for 14 million today, not even that. We must increase it at least 30 times more next 6 years, because 2% of the diabetics statistically end up as renal failure cases. We may require 300 million of them. And healthcare is something which is dramatically changing. Companies which come up, the company secretaries will have to assist, administer them. Today, there is that famous actress, Angelina Jolie. You read in the papers yesterday that she had a third marriage recently. She had her both breasts removed when the genome sequencing predicted that 4 years down the line she will have cancer of the breast. In order to preempt the possibility of cancer, she went through the operation even before the onset of the disease. Today, the genetic sequencing will tell you, today, in fact, a great friend of mine, Dr. Vijay Kakka, who happened to be the head of the research department of the London University. His son has succeeded to the same office in the London University, and he has been conferred a peerage and made a member of the House of Lords. He was here some time ago, and I requested him to address some group of doctors. He spoke on the future diagnostic tools of the future, and he told them, first thing, in another 5 years' time, it will be time for you to sell away your big machines, MRI machines and others by weight. You have to sell them to the Radniwala by weight. The future tools of diagnosis will be just what he calls a microfluidics. Just one drop of saliva, one drop of blood, one drop of urine, and one pick of the earwax. That will tell you all the diseases that you have in your body and all the diseases that you are going to get in future in your lifetime. This is the change that you are going to see in medicine, in education, in medicine, communication. There is something which is dramatic things are going to happen, and we are still sticking on like an old man wearing with attached fondness the clothes of his youth. This is the problem of this country, and how you corporates and the company secretaries going to alter the scenario for the better of mankind. I don't know how you will do it, because governments, I spent 14 lousy years in Delhi and fairly at high levels of work, and have an intimate knowledge of how governments work, and thank you, how governments work. And I hope this enactment, through it and through its discipline, the companies and the company secretaries, the corporates will change their philosophies and apply themselves seriously how they should make life for the Indians a little better. I don't think we have been ready for the competition internationally in science. The kind of scientific attitude is absent. And how we can build up a new nation. We have done that. We see actually in 1946 we are producing 6 million tons of wheat. By 2000 we increased it to 79 million tons of wheat. We are producing 1,300 megawatts of power. Believe me, we had an installed capacity of 1,300 megawatts of power in 1947. Today we have an installed capacity of 300,000. China has 4 times that. That's another matter. But we have the potential, but our laziness and traditional way of looking at things with a kind of suspicion amongst castes and other things, we introduced this cancer of caste distinction without encouraging them, giving them uniform good education. God knows what we are trying to do to ourselves. The problem is that we have 150 million Muslims in this country, 290 million Dalits, 280 million or 300 million backward classes. Their intellectual, physical and moral uplift is perhaps the first charge in this country. I don't know how we are going to handle all this, but so far as the company secretaries are concerned, I must caution you that you must grow up in a hurry so that you will not sit along with the auditor in the same cell. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much. Listening to you, it is evident that age is for the body, not for the mind. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Very grateful to you. Political figures are of different kinds. I am reminded of this para from Rudyard Kipling's beautiful poem, If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if needed flows nor loving words can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And the chief guest for this building inaugural, Honorable Union Minister for Railways, Shri D.V. Sadananda Gowda, belongs to such a rare breed. Sir, I request you to deliver your address.
I think Honorable Justice Padma Bhushan Venkatachalaya delivered his speech. It has motivated you all, and my speech will not be up to your expectations. Or Honorable Justice Padma Bhushan Venkatachalaya, respected President Sridharan, Vice President Vikas Vaikare, Secretary Sahu, Shri Gopal Krishna Hegde, other dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, ladies and gentlemen, friends from media, ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೀತಿಪೂರ್ವಕ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. I am extremely happy to be a part of this grand celebration to inaugurate the new building for the company secretaries in the heart of Bangalore. The socio-economic prosperity and the social well-being of our nation depend upon the quality of governance. The idea of governance is very broad, having economic, political and administrative dimensions. Governance is the process of decision-making to formulate policies. Administrative governance is the system of policy implementation. Encompassing all three, good governance defines the process and structures that guide social, political and economic relationships. Governance is usually associated with state, but in reality it transcends the state by including the private sector and the civil society. Corporations are important economic actors and powerful components of economy. I understand that the corporate governance requires efficient regulatory support and effective implementation tools, and what I see in front of me today is largest asset that any government entity to implement the ideas and principles of policy formation. I think company secretaries as a community is as an invaluable resource and a powerful tool to bring about the effective governance. Just now I was sitting with Hegde. He just asked me, what do you mean by minimum government and maximum governance? I said that you are the judges, we have to evaluate what we are doing today in the new era of this new government. A company secretary's job is of a tremendous responsibility. It is not just taking and filing notes, but to ensure that the company is responsible to the stakeholders, shareholders, to the lawmakers, law of the land, and ultimately the people of the country. I urge you to concentrate on not just complying with the law, but also to leverage technology and innovations to achieve excellence by the way of self-reporting, self-compliance, and self-regulation, which is far more effective way of doing things. The Companies Act of 2013 has attracted a lot of attention, especially the areas of corporate social responsibility, independent directors, and good corporate governance. Company secretaries are the legal and moral compass of organizations. As key managerial personnel, you guide the board of directors in protecting and increasing stakeholders' value. You ensure all-around compliance and governance of rules and regulations. You must be just like Parthasarathi, that is Lord Krishna, who guided Arjuna on the right path. To guide others, you yourself must be upright, disciplined, and of high integrity. Apart from upholding the company law and complying with rules and regulations scrupulously, whenever there is a conflict of interest, you must uphold dharma or governance. This is already said by Mr. Gopal Krishna Hegde and explained the subject in detail. Whether in personal life, professional life, or political life, there are always instances of dharma sankata. How you overcome that by following ethical practices sets you apart as a leader. That is the way you will grow in stature and value. Your employer will respect you, government will trust you, employees will look up to you, family will be proud of you, economic activity will thrive, society will be happy, and the country will prosper. with your wide knowledge on the subject and experience, company secretaries can advise civil societies, corporate sector, NGOs, trusts, Jilla Panchayats, self-help groups and SMEs who are not companies. As far as statistics quoted by Professor Vaidyanathan in IIMD in his book, India Unique, Non-Corporate India, or partnership and proprietorship firms contribute more than 40% of the national income in terms of savings, capital formation and employment generation. In fact, they have been the engines of our economic growth in the last 2 decades. Bangalore has many reputed education institutions like GKVK, IIMD, IISA, IITB and research organizations like Institute of Astrophysics, Institute of Economics and Social Change, Raman Research Institute, NAL, etc. There is a say in Kannada, Mane Katti Nodu, Madhu Madi Nodu, and there is a say. Both building a house and performing a marriage are big events involving great efforts. Building a spacious institution like this is even more enormous and challenging. I congratulate the local Bangalore chapter and all the concerned for taking up this responsibility and completing it. The building reflects the motto of your institute, in pursuit of professional excellence. May you live up to it. Some of you may know that Rajajinagar was named after Sri Rajagopalachari, the great freedom fighter from Tamil Nadu, who was also the first non-British or native Governor General of India. He was also the first recipient of prestigious Bharat Ratna Award, the highest civilian award in India. On this auspicious occasion of the grand opening ceremony of this building in Rajajinagar, I wish the Bangalore chapter shines like Ratna in the crown of institutes. I just heard from Shri Gopal Krishna Hegde that your President R. Sridharan had the grand plans for the future. I sincerely wish all your dreams come true and your plans succeed. This building must be a landmark building of learning and corporate governance, not only in Bangalore, in the whole country. Let that guide you in your journey for professional excellence and personal growth. It has indeed been a pleasure for me to be here today and speak with you. I am sure that you will take this institution to greater heights. Many congratulations to Bangalore chapter of ICSI, Institute of Company Secretaries of India. It is 1,600 members, 400 full-time company secretaries and 11,500 students pursuing the company secretary course. I promise to provide all full support of my government as well as my personal support to you to the cause and wish you the very best in your endeavor. Thank you one and all.
The words coming from the heart of our Honorable Mr. Sri Sadananda Gowda, sir, we are really proud to have you with us today. Thank you very much. May I call upon our past President, Shri Prahalad Rao, to come forward and present a memento to Honorable Minister as token of our respect, our love, our acknowledgement of the motivating words for the growth of the profession in Bangalore. I feel a standing ovation should be befitting place. He has requested our leave of absence from further proceedings of today's program.
Sir, 2 more minutes.
Sir, please be seated. Our program continues. Once again, we, the Bangalore chapter of ICSI, all the members, students, dignitaries present here, we express our heartfelt thanks to
Honorable Minister Shri Sadananda Gowda. Thank you very much. In our journey of constructing this building, right from the days of acquiring the land, there have been supports extended by many of our members, well-wishers, corporates. It has been in various forms: donation, words of appreciation, pat on the back, good work, please go ahead. All these responses are highly valuable and we respect each one of these encouraging measures. Still, we thought it appropriate that we should specifically acknowledge the persons who have contributed rupees 1 lakh or more for this project.